All right, guys, welcome back. A bit of an update on the car. I ground back all the welding on the quarter panel, so that's all done. I also, off camera, I actually went ahead and fixed the beaver panel because I just needed to get that done, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but have a look at this. So there's the infill piece on the beaver panel. I had to slice that off my old one, so I had to cut all this off. It was very bent, so I had to sit there and get it right. And then once I got it right, I then welded it all in place, and it came out pretty good. Now, the reason why I went ahead and did that and I didn't film it was because I need to jump on to the next thing, as I need to get the car ready for a drift day coming up, all right? So there's a drift day coming up in about 9 days. The car is a mess and I need to fix it. Not only are we in pieces here, but there's also more work that I need to do to it as well in the front suspension wise and stuff like that. So we're here, we've done it. The quarter panel is on, the beaver is on, and I am stoked. I hope you all enjoyed the process, and maybe it was educational for you guys. If I could help you out in one way or another, I hope it did, right? So yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna get it ready for the track day, hopefully, if all goes well. I'm gonna film it all, so you're gonna see exactly what I'm gonna do to the rest of the car, and we're just gonna try and make it happen, all right? All right, so I've done the chassis rail now. As you can see, I have welded the new piece. I decided to use a full-length tube that I had. I ran it all the way down the rail, welded it together with these 3mm pieces of steel. And as you can see, she's not going anywhere. Now, I was gonna cut it and use this to sleeve my bash bar, but according to FIA, the bash bar, the rear bash bar and the front bash bar need to be held on by four bolts on either side. Right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna cut it, and instead of using it to sleeve, I'm gonna weld a plate onto it that's got 4 holes, and then on the bash bar, we'll have another plate which will bolt to it. So in case of an accident, the bash bar theoretically should break off the bolts, and it shouldn't affect the rest of the chassis. So on this side I've taped where I'm gonna cut down here, cut across here, so I can access his chassis rail, so I can do the same thing here. And that's happening right now, so let's get into it. I have finished welding the chassis rails. I've welded using plates, and it's exactly level all the way across. So both of them are done, and I've also welded 2 plates here, 1 and 2. That's going to hold the tube. The tube's going to go across here to here. This is the side that's going to mount my fuel straps. So what I've got to do now is I just have to grab the fuel tank and sort of fit it in place to see where the straps are going to be. I'm going to see now, so that's what we're going to do. All right, let's go. The plan of attack today is weld the tube that's going to go from here across. I've got to make some custom made brackets that are going to go to these holes here and here to be able to secure the fuel tank. So when I do it up by the straps, it's not going anywhere. And if I don't decide to use the fuel tank, then I can drop the fuel tank out, but still use this support here and put another one in on that side to do the fuel seal. Alright guys, as you saw, I cut the tube, I welded a plate on the chassis, and I dropped the fuel tank so I could go in there and weld the rest of the plate, because the plate needs to be welded all the way around. This is the tube. I cut it to length, a little bit oversized, so I can measure and notch it out. So what I've done while the fuel tank was in, I marked the chassis. So I put a mark here, and I've put a mark here. And I know exactly where the tube's gonna go, so then I can start making the brackets for the fuel tank. So, notch it, weld it all in together. While I've got the fuel tank out, I'm gonna weld on the plates on the strut towers, because I can easily get in the boot and weld around it and whatever. And then after I've done that, then we're gonna put the fuel tank back in. All right, let's go. Sweating shit. All right guys, so I've got these pieces of steel that are gonna go on the strut towers, right? So they're gonna go here, and that's where the tube goes from the strut to the chassis rail. Now, the strut tower is curved. These are straight. So how am I going to curve this piece of steel? So I've started. I drew a line where I felt I needed the curve to be, and I cut probably 3/4 of the way through it. And then once I cut 3/4 of the way through it, I was then able to bend it. So now that I've sort of bent it into place and it's now curving along with the strut tower, I'm going to weld this. So I'm going to fill this gap now with weld and then smooth it out. And that is going to be the piece that goes on that side of the car. So let's weld it. So as I was welding the strut tower, I could hear something crackling, like it was burning, and I was like, what's that? So I got out, completely packed shit, because I was like, my car's on fire. So I went underneath and I had a look, and underneath the strut tower, behind it, there was all the buildup of stuff that's been there for so many years. So it caught on fire. So I had to grab my blower and I blew it all out and made sure that it was not, like, you know, it wasn't going to burn and light the whole car on fire and light the whole garage on fire. That was not happening. So I took the opportunity and I took out the suspension, like I took out the coilovers, which are here, which is great because now I can clean them. They haven't been out of the car since they've been in the car, so I can clean them up and I can check to see if they're all, running right, and adjust the damper, check the spring heights and the spring rates and stuff like that. So that's going to be pretty cool. And on the inside, I've started here already, but I've got to clean this whole inner section because the metal should be clean on both sides, especially if you're welding. Because last thing I want is to light it up on fire when I'm welding it.